stupidest thing.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
10 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, June 27th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, we're going to talk with Deep Singh Badhesha. He's a progressive political strategist here in Colorado. Seems to me like everybody's losing their minds, rightfully so, over who could be the new mayor of New York City. Is he just an outright anti-Semitic communist? Or is he a progressive thought leader that's going to bring about a change in the Democrat Party?
On a side note with that one, how bad do you think former Governor Cuomo's team feels right now? How livid is he yelling at his people saying, Now people are asking questions about this dude. Now, you couldn't do any Oppo research? We couldn't be bringing all this out now? Yeah, that's a part that I'm like, all the other people in that primary, the stuff that's coming out now, and people are asking questions like, well, where was the Oppo research team?
It seems to me that even with the Oppo coming out, the voters of New York City are like, yes, government-run grocery stores. That's what we want. Oh, my God.
Now, that's going to be an interesting conversation if we get that with the guest, the idea of where the electorate may be going and why this messaging seems to resonate with a certain group of voters. What's the reasoning behind it? So this could be interesting.
White, rich liberals who want government-run grocery stores? This is going to be weird. All right, we are going to have quite the conversation this next hour. And Deep's been on the show before. So glad to have him back. He'll be joining us here in just a few minutes. But now is time for News and Comment with Mr. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Happy Friday. 70 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 91 today. News presented by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Now is the time to stand with Israel. Call 800-301-1188. That's 800-301-1188, or go to 710knus.com and click on the big red Stand With Israel banner at the top of the page. Our top story, a push in Congress to make sure that AM radio is available in all cars, is gaining momentum. It's led by Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who says the legislation is protecting consumer choice. His bill now has 17 co-sponsors from the Texas congressional delegation. Earlier this year, 8 major automakers announced plans to strip AM radio from cars. It was done, they say, over fears that it's interfering with new safety technology. Ford has since reversed course. Thank goodness. We need our AM radios on all cars, in every home. The Supreme Court will be busy ruling today on the final day of its 9-month term. The High Court will decide if federal judges have power to issue nationwide injunctions. It will also rule on cases involving health care, religion rights, and voting rights. Jeff's wife, Nicole, our expert on the show, last hour, talking about the important South Carolina case.
So as it stands today, South Carolina has a pathway forward to continue to defund Planned Parenthood from their Medicaid program, and this creates a pathway for other states to do the same. So Planned Parenthood was making the argument on behalf of Medicaid recipients, and they had one who was in the case, saying that they had a right, based on the Medicaid Act, the language of the Medicaid Act, that there was a private right to sue that Congress put into the language of the bill. And so the primary disagreement was whether or not there really was a rights-creating provision that existed within Medicaid. And
man, so smart. That is huge for South Carolina and other states. Senate debates on DJT's massive spending bill may get off to a rough start today. The Senate parliamentarian has rejected key Medicaid provisions in the GOP bill. That means the measure is still being worked on, and several Republicans say they won't debate it until they see the final version. There's a chance Vice President J.D. Vance could get rid of the parliamentarian. 47 is threatening to sue CNN and the New York Times for claiming the recent airstrikes did not destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. A lawyer for Trump sent letters to both news outlets on Thursday saying they had damaged Trump's reputation. The Denver Zoo is planning to close early tomorrow. If you are looking forward to taking your kids, zoo officials say they are concerned about an advertised city park takeover that could draw hundreds of teens to the area tomorrow afternoon. A similar takeover last weekend at Northfield Mall led to fights and at least one reported theft. A zoo spokesperson says there have been no specific threats, but adds that the facility will close at 1 o'clock as a safety precaution. The defense will deliver its closing arguments today in New York's sex trafficking trial of Sean Combs. It still should be against the law for any adult to call himself Diddy. The NBA draft has wrapped up in New York. The Phoenix Suns started the second round on Thursday by selecting St. Joseph forward Rasheer Fleming. U.S. Senior Open at the Broadmoor today through Sunday. The Rockies beat at the Brewers tonight at 6:10, and the Dodgers beat the Rocks 3-1 yesterday afternoon. 67 in Westminster, 68 in Lone Tree, 70 in Denver.
What time is it?
Time for more of the Pushback Boys, Jeff and Billy on a Friday.
I'm the cream of the crop. I rise when I'm shot.
Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Thunderstorms are going to take a little bit of a break here in Denver and along the Front Range as drier air comes over the divide and into the Front Range. Sunny, mid to upper 80s today. Sunny, 85 to 90 for Friday. Lower to mid 90s Saturday. Today through Saturday, likely dry. Upper 80s Sunday with thunderstorms returning. More thunderstorms likely next week. Weather, sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. He's live in studio. Looks great. Looks dressed way better than the rest of us today. And even he smells good. This is a man on a mission.
He showered. What is this?
It's Deep Singh Badhesha. He's a progressive political strategist. And he's one that's willing to cross the barriers. Come, hang out.
It's really weird.
But this isn't like a hard right show. I'm a conservative. Bill's a more independent minded. That's why he is.
I'm a problem child.
We're going to win Bill over. Don't worry. He's going to get there.
Here's the thing, man.
This is the battle for Bill. This is what's happening.
Bill's going to be a Bernie Sanders voter by the end of this, hopefully.
Oh, God, no. I'm not sure you'd want me. It's like that Groucho Marx thing. I'm not sure I want to belong to a club that would admit me as a member. I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Well, I asked him to come on to talk about Zohran Mamdani's victory in New York City. This is the guy that won the Democrat primary for New York, and everybody's panicking. I mean, the Washington Post editorial board, no bastion of conservative thought, writes Zohran Mamdani's victory is bad for New York and the Democrat Party. So help me understand what happened this week. And Andrew Cuomo loses to this guy. Who is he? Is this a signal of bigger changes within the Democrat Party? Give us your take.
I think it's been an earthquake so far in the Democratic Party. Thanks for having me back on, by the way. I really appreciate it. I was going across the aisle talking to folks. So for those of you who don't know, New York City is a very Democratic city, right? Whoever usually wins the Democratic primary ends up being mayor. There's some cases that doesn't happen where someone will run as an independent. Bloomberg, for example, current scandal-ridden, corrupt mayor Eric Adams is running in November as an independent too. So
tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, I think almost that's a bipartisan consensus on Eric Adams, actually. So the Democratic Party really, the Democratic primary in New York City's mayoral election will signal who's likely to be the next mayor. Zohran Mamdani is an assemblyman from New York City. He's a child of Indian Ugandan father and an Indian American mother from India. His mom is actually an indie filmmaker, made the movie Mississippi Masala, which you should. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this, but you should watch
I haven't.
It has Denzel Washington in it.
Oh, what's it about?
It's kind of like an Indian American and a Black American falling in love in the South. Right. So it's cool.
Is it a romantic comedy?
It is romantic.
Oh, okay, but it's romantic, but maybe not a okay.
Yeah,
I could sometimes watch those.
Yeah. Anyways, so he's an immigrant. He actually moved to New York City when he was young. He still went there for elementary school, middle school, high school, but he's someone who was polling at 1%. I'm also Indian American. I'm a child of immigrants. I was born in the U.S. I was actually born in Queens. So I was born in New York City in Queens.
Were you?
Yeah, but
I know you're a Colorado Springs guy.
I moved to Colorado Springs when I was 6 months old.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
My parents were like, okay, we're going to leave now. So Colorado Springs is a beautiful place to grow up.
Now that we have a young life we have to care for, maybe not here.
Yeah. So Zohran Mamdani, he's been very active in the Democratic Party, of course, but in another organization which I belong to as well, which is the Democratic Socialist of America, DSA. You've probably heard this before. They're very affiliated with AOC, very affiliated with Bernie Sanders, and these are the people offering a different vision of what our democracy could be, a different vision of what the Democratic Party could be, right? So he comes from this left-wing portion of the Democratic Party. And what's most fascinating about this is, if you're not familiar with New York politics, Cuomo comes from a political dynasty. He was governor. His father was governor. His father had still a huge name ID. He had an almost universal name ID, right? And he had $40 million backing him. Zohran Mamdani started in October with 1% name ID, 1% of people knowing who he was. And from October to June, he was able to beat a political dynasty. And he did it like he was outspent 5-1. He only had $8 million, right? And he was able to raise that through grassroots spending. He had 50,000 volunteers. And to me, this signals the future of the Democratic Party. It's about the policy more than it is about the individual. Zohran focused relentlessly on kitchen table issues. Democrats are the strongest when they're talking about those issues, right? Zohran ran on freezing the rent for 2 million New Yorkers. He talked about universal child care starting as early as you can. He talked about free buses through the boroughs, and he talked about a progressive vision in cost of living, that in New York City, one of the wealthiest cities in the entire world, in the entire history of the planet, these things should be possible, that people should be able to afford and live there. And that's how he won.
That voice you're hearing is Deep Singh Badhesha. He's a progressive political strategist here in Colorado, helping us understand what happened in New York City in this primary. So this guy shows up. He's got this energy. And I agree with you that this is the direction of the Democrat Party, because I saw it when 30,000 people showed up at Civic Center Park. Now, conservatives were going, oh, they're all paid activists. I was like, well, there might be some paid people there. But I think these people are genuinely passionate about the direction of the Democrat Party. I disagree that it's entirely policy-oriented. I think that what I've seen is a reform within the party similar to what we saw in Republicans in 2010, that they really want fighters. So they're looking at Donald Trump, and he's bold, and he's just driving his agenda. He just doesn't care, right? And they don't want somebody that's going to compromise with that. they want somebody that's going to fight just as hard back. And so policy, yes, but attitude seems to be really important too. The John Hickenlooper, Michael Bennet milquetoast doesn't seem to be interesting to Democrat primary voters. But then I see a poll that Michael Bennett's like winning the primary to become governor. So help me make sense of that.
So I will say, I think I was texting folks all night Tuesday and then all throughout Wednesday talking about this, about Democratic politics, in particular about the Hickenlooper race, right? Hickenlooper is 74 years old. He's someone who's also been a mayor and a governor and a senator. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's unbeatable. No one can touch him. The New York City primary is actually a larger electorate than Colorado's Democratic primary is. Colorado's Democratic primary is a little bit different because we have unaffiliated voters who can jump in. But if you can go from 1% and beat a political dynasty within, 6 to 8 months, you can also do that around the nation, following kind of like the Zohran Playbook, focusing on kitchen table issues and being a fighter. In particular, if you look at the areas that Zohran's winning in New York City, he's actually overlapping quite a bit with Trump's best spaces. And that's because Trump also ran on very similar things that Zohran did, right? Trump ran on reducing grocery prices, right?
But not creating
government.
But
he ran on that, right? He ran on cost of living. He said, look at Biden, look at Kamala. Is your life better than it was 4 years ago? Right? He ran on an idea that the establishment and the status quo is not working and you need something else. Democrats, if they get stuck with this thing that like the status quo is working fine, life's okay.
Let's have another election on abortion, that type of thing.
Yeah. Democrats need to focus on kitchen table issues, right? And that's something that Trump has really brought to the forefront. I don't think he's delivering on those at all. I think grocery prices are still going up. I think gas prices are going to start going up as well. So Trump's not delivering, and I think people are going to start, the working class individuals that Trump really won, they're going to start looking around, and I think Zohran's message, Bernie's message, AOC's, hopefully someone here in Colorado's message will start
Well, that's my
resonating.
next question. Who would challenge John Hickenlooper?
You know, there's been several names that have been floated about that. There's folks who don't have much of a political profile that are considering it, kicking the tires. And I think Zohran's an inspiration to that, where like, hey, you know.
How about you?
I'm very blessed that my wife and I are expecting our first child in September.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Which that's the real ultimate prize. I mean, like, me and my wife have always wanted to be parents. We think it's a blessing, so we're looking forward to that. So that's my priority. I don't want to, get involved in all that. But there's also excellent people out there. You know, you've heard folks float around.
Indians are hot right now in New York City.
I think
ride that wave deep.
It was pretty funny to see Vivek Ramaswamy jump in. Vivek Ramaswamy, the former Doge person connected to Donald Trump, ran for the Republican nomination. He's running for governor of Ohio.
Don't forget, former rapper. That's important to him.
Was Vivek also a former rapper?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you haven't heard the story.
And Zohran was a former rapper, too.
Yeah,
Do you have an album?
I was a stand-up comedian, but it didn't do well.
Oh, see, the story
I would
now,
love to hear that, by the way.
He couched himself as a libertarian rapper while he was in college because, of course, as we all know, that people who are familiar with rap music, they all divide themselves based on politics. So that was, again, he was choosing the absolutely getting about, not the East-West Coast thing. He was like, we're going to make this thing about politics. The funniest thing that I thought was cool is that he tried to make a hand sign for his fans, and while he was in class, as the stories go from people who are in class with him, he would raise his hand in class using the hand sign. Trying to force it to become a thing.
It sounds like a Vivek thing.
Yeah, it does. It does.
No one's surprised.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
You know what's fascinating is like he looks like he's leading the Republican primary polls in Ohio.
Yeah.
So it was fascinating to see that the most likely Republican governor of Ohio, who's a Hindu Indian American, reached out to the Muslim Indian American potential mayor of New York City, and they were, he was exchanging, like, Wall Street should come to Ohio. And I'm like, I was just sitting back like, let's just exit the policy for a second. I would have never imagined as a young brown kid growing up that this would be the situation.
Yes.
So it does show growth in our politics that this is happening. And that's something to be proud of all across the nation. But what Colorado Democrats should take away from this is that people want to talk about reducing prices. People want to talk about this. And the thing is, Republicans could probably seize on some of these moments too, right?
Yeah.
There are individuals at the state capitol I've heard that have been talking about, like, maybe there's too many fees, and the cost of living is a real burden, right? If Republicans are able to seize the message and Democrats aren't, that's a real vulnerability for us.
So help me understand, and I want to kind of pivot now to policy. Okay, so we're talking with Deep Singh Badhesha. He's a progressive political strategist. We're talking about Zohran Mamdani's victory in the New York City Democratic primary. Some of this stuff is so outlandish. I mean, government-run grocery stores? In what universe does a government-run grocery store reduce prices?
Well, to go on Zohran's policy on the government-run grocery stores, it's supposed to start as a pilot program, and he's very evidence-based. He's like, listen, if this pilot program works well, then we will extend it. If it doesn't work well, we're not going to do it. Right now in New York City, like they're in Denver, Colorado, and other places, especially if you're in Parker, you might experience this, is there's food deserts where the only good meal you can get is from a fast food chain or from a different chain. You don't have a grocery store in an area. I think it makes sense, and you've seen this across different markets, is when there is a gap in the market and the private sector is not coming in to fill that gap, it does make sense for government to come in and fill that gap. So the pilot program he wants to run is government-run grocery stores to reduce the price of groceries, to go into these food deserts, and they're going to run it. And if it works out well, then I think they'll continue. If it doesn't, they won't. And another good example of this is the free buses that they're offering. It started off as a free pilot program in New York City that's saying, hey, we're going to have one free bus line in each borough, and we're going to see how that goes. It showed that ridership was up over 30%. Violence against drivers was down 30% when you made the buses free. And that pilot program proves that, hey, maybe we should make these things free. And that's something that Colorado should be experimenting with too.
Well, I question this idea that it's free. It's government paid for, which requires taxes. And Zohran Mamdani's plan is going to require a big tax increase, corporate tax increase. I mean, you guys don't see this. Democrats, socialists don't see this as driving industry out of New York, people wanting to leave New York, because it's not going to be free. It is going to cost money, paid for by the wealthy.
So there's actually an economic study that happened in New York City exactly about these higher tax initiatives. It's who is leaving New York City and why are they leaving New York City. The richest New Yorkers actually leave New York City less than the working class individuals do. And when higher income individuals, these millionaires, billionaires, leave New York City, they're not actually leaving for lower tax states. They're leaving for either New Jersey or California, places where cost of living is different and the quality of life is different. The tax that Mamdani has offered is actually quite reasonable. And that's the thing that I think people need to focus on, is we can make life much better by taxing the 1% in corporations their fair share. They're talking about a 1% to 2% tax on millionaires, which is $20,000 on $1 million. $20,000. Jeff, I'm sure you have a successful, radio show. You're doing really well. If you're making $1 million a year, it's $20,000 that's going to improve your quality of life, your neighbor's quality of life, make your streets better, make your city better. Are you going to leave because of that?
Deep. Oh my gosh, we're getting into. The idea that taking money from people and handing it to the most inefficient, bureaucratic, corrupt entities like government, where you have special interests pouring into every aspect. I mean, we're spending millions of dollars to address homelessness in Denver, for instance. It's not getting better. You've housed it, but the number of people that are living homeless in Colorado has actually gone up. So where does taking money, and this is a philosophical conversation, of course, and by the way, I really appreciate you having this. This is making good for good radio. But where does taking money from successful people, forcing it into government, which they do it at the point of a gun, it's theft in my opinion, and then redistributing it in a radically inefficient way, actually help people? Help me understand.
There are folks who have right to be angry about the inefficiency of government. And the people who should actually be pretty angry about the inefficiency of government are working class people, are poor people.
I agree.
I grew up in a small mom and pop liquor store, right? My parents owned a small mom and pop liquor store. My uncles owned convenience stores. Like, I grew up in this American dream where we're like, hey, let's get a small business. Let's make let's work really hard, blood, sweat, and tears, 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week to make a life here. There is a really good argument that some regulations, though well-intentioned, do burden small businesses. And I'll give you another example from the Zohran Mamdani campaign. Is he went to 50% of the businesses, jobs in New York City are small businesses. He says he's going to cut the fines and fees and regulations on small businesses by 50%. That almost sounds like a conservative talking point,
that's good
right?
stuff right there, yeah.
And there is a big movement in the Democratic Party to do this, right? You talked about housing, right? Why is it that blue cities and blue states have a housing problem that oftentimes red states don't? And actually, Democrats should take a really good look at themselves and be like, this is partly created by us because we do love too much red tape. We've made it so impossible to make housing. We've said you can't make townhouses in central Denver parts. You can't make apartments in Denver. And then we ask why the rents are going up, right? So I think Zohran Mamdani is not just offering a different, just policy positions, right? He's offering a different way forward for the Democratic Party, right? He's offering it forward no one wants a government just to be big for the sake of bigness. There's maybe DC Beltway consultants, the people who worked on Kamala Harris's campaign. She had $1.5 billion. The DC Beltway consultants, they might want a big government, just to have big government so they can cash in their paychecks. But the rest of us, we want an efficient government.
I so appreciate what you're saying, but I look at our state legislature and I go, I think they think that state government's going to solve all their problems and they have to do something. It's like 500 laws every session. And I often raise the question, what are they doing down there passing anything that is so earth-shattering that's actually going to affect anybody's lives? And that's 500 laws they passed, let alone introduced. I think there's this sense within them that they have to pass some form of law. But to your point, Ezra Klein brings us up in his latest book that he's like, well, if Democrats want to start winning, they have to show where they have total control, places like San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles. Things are actually getting built and done, and his biggest critique is the train to nowhere in California. But I appreciate that, but I just see that Democrats believe that government is the solution to everything. And especially if they're socialists.
We need to remember who is the government, right? Yeah. The government is by the people, for the people, right? It doesn't feel like that often, right? Yeah. When I talk to working class individuals, when I talk to my friends who will vote Democrat but also vote for Trump, they see a corrupt system. Americans understand when you're getting a raw deal. They understand when your rents are going up and your wages are not going up, when your boss is buying a new Maserati and you're still working a 12-hour shift and they're just sitting there collecting it. Americans can understand and feel the anger that the system isn't working for them. On the right, you have Trump, who is coming in as the authoritarian, from an authoritarian perspective, a fascist perspective, but still a populist perspective that government can be used to make your lives better. Democrats have not been answering that call from the public. We have not been answering the call that make our lives better. The government should be working for me, not these consultants, not these donors. And that's the trap that Democrats get into. Democrats, if you look at the Democratic Party, when I look at the Democratic Party, I went to the DNC when Kamala was nominated. I went to the DNC. I sat on the floor. I was sitting next to congressmen and senators. And as I was going there, I saw these banners from these massive corporations, right, who are writing these $1 million checks. And then I hear their rhetoric. And their rhetoric is basically, okay, we can't rock the boat too much because these guys are going to stop writing our checks. And that is something that the Democratic Party needs to grapple with, right? We need a working class movement, someone who's relentlessly focused on making the lives better of individuals. And I don't think it's as ideological as people think.
That's Deep Singh Badhesha. I almost got the middle word and your last name mixed up. Deep Singh Badhesha, progressive political strategist. He's joining us live in studio. Great conversation we're having right now on the New York mayor's race, Zohran Mamdani, and the impact that's going to have on Democrats moving forward. I'm going to ask him when we come back, how Jews in New York City should feel about this. Can they trust him to represent Jews well? Is he anti-Semitic, or is he just, kind of pushing back on what Israel's doing in Gaza. We'll talk about that and more, and you're welcome to join the conversation. Give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line 720-819-5115. Speaking of Dan Capitalist, I've known Dan well over a decade. Great guy. He is with us on the values, and he has gotten justice for the people of Colorado for 40 years now. 40 years he's delivered justice for people hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Capitalist Law is so trusted, he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Capitalist Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancapitalistlaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. Deep Singh Badesha's live in studio. Not going to want to miss this conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Very honored to have Deep Singh Badhesha live in studio. I was just saying, man, we could go on for hours. I so appreciate the opportunity to have these kind of deeper philosophical conversations. I appreciate the way your mind thinks. We're going to take a break just for now, and we've got tickets to give away to the USGA Senior Open. Right, Bill?
Yes, it is happening this weekend. USGA Senior Open in Colorado Springs out of the lovely Broadmoor, going on Saturday and Sunday. I have got a pair of general admission tickets. General admission tickets up for grabs. You can go hang out in the regular gallery seating this weekend, the 28th and the 29th at the beautiful Broadmoor. Watch all the old duffers wander around, make you feel better about your golf game, but just a little, because they're still really, really, really good. So give us a call right now, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. That number again, 303-696-1971. I'm going to talk to caller number 7, and you are going to go for free to the USGA Senior Open, courtesy of our friends up there at the Broadmoor. I'm going to start talking to the phone lines right now.
Down at the Broadmoor. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. Weather's going to look great, too. Phone lines filling up. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Deep, we're talking about the Democrat primary winner, Zohran Mamdani, who defeated Andrew Cuomo. New York City, biggest city for Jews outside of Israel. Should they be concerned about him?
You know, this is a question that he's answered over and over again, whether it was the debates. He also went on the Stephen Colbert late night show. So I would, if anyone wants to see it directly from Zohran. So I am Indian American and a Democratic Socialist with a great beard, but I am not Zohran. So if you want to hear directly from him, I would say go on Stephen Colbert and him, and Brad Lander did an interview where he talked about this. But there is a real fear in the Jewish community about anti-Semitism. If you look at, you don't have to look that far, right? Boulder, Colorado.
They're lit on fire in Boulder.
Yeah. And I grew up Sikh, right? I grew up Sikh. I had a lot of Muslim friends. And after the wake of 9/11, Sikhs were targets of a lot of violence, right? I remember what it feels like to be sitting at my temple and to be constantly looking over your shoulder. And when I talk to my good friends in the Jewish community, many whom I disagree with on Israel, that fear is very real, and that fear needs to be addressed by local politicians, in particular with community safety. As far as Zohran goes, he's promised to invest over an 800% increase in the hate crimes prevention in New York City. And he's someone who's looking out for New York City people in particular. And he won those voters. He is someone who says critiquing the Israeli government is different than critiquing the Jewish people.
But has he said that he would allow Israel to exist as a Jewish state?
He has said that Israel has a right to exist.
Yeah, but as a Jewish state?
I don't know his exact specifics. Again, this is just the interviews that I've seen.
And I'm not sure it's fair to ask you to defend everything he says, but I think that seems to be a distinction that's made.
I think there's a distinction made that a lot of people say this too. And, you know, my Zionist friends, my progressive Zionist friends would also say this, that Israel has a right to exist as a state with equal rights. And that's something I believe in as well, that Israel does have a right to exist as a state with equal rights. And that goes across the board, that states should be abiding by international law. But here's the thing that I think really won New Yorkers, that Mamdani was willing to win New Yorkers over. And something that Trump said on the campaign trail that he went back on is that we should be putting America first. Right? We should be putting, if you're in New York City or you're a New York elected official, you should be putting New York first. I'm from Colorado. I'm from Denver. I want my Colorado politicians, my Colorado leaders to be putting Colorado first, right? And that means instead of sending billions of dollars overseas, getting involved in new wars in the Middle East, focusing right here in the country. And
so you don't think that the United States, or at least Democratic Socialists, should have believe that the United States should aid Israel against Iran?
I think this is not just a belief that Democratic Socialists have or just Democrats have. This is a view that's expressed on the right. If you're listening to folks like Steve Bannon, right? If you saw that interview with Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, there are people on the right flank of the party who are saying, listen, what are the lessons we are supposed to take away from Iraq? What are the lessons we're supposed to take away from Afghanistan? Obama's intervention in Syria, in Libya, right? These are things that are deeply unpopular to the American people, because the American people look around and they see that, hey, I don't have health care. My college is super unaffordable for my kids. My kids might not be getting the best education. My paycheck is not going up. What are we doing being involved so around the world instead of right here at home? That's a frustration.
Would that also be the same for Ukraine?
I think that's something else again, that a lot of people believe that we should be focusing on America first. These are issues. When I talk to working class people in Colorado, and I'm sure it's true working class people all across the United States, is people want more of a focus on their government helping them, the taxpayers here, than elsewhere.
But I guess when I go down to like the Bernie rallies, there's a lot of Ukrainians. Some of my funniest content in debating people about Ukraine has come from Bernie rallies. So they seem to support U.S. intervention in Ukraine, but not against Iran.
Speaking of intervention, I'm going to intervene in the conversation here.
Nice.
Bill's there, guys. He's still here, everybody.
Yeah. I'm still here. I was talking, and what I want to do is I wanted to bring our friend John on the air right now because, John, congratulations. You are going to the USGA Senior Open in Colorado Springs this weekend. You were caller number 7. Congratulations, and thanks for listening, my friend.
I appreciate it. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Billy.
Okay, so now I'm just saying that who are you going to take with you, and why is it Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe? Or what? Do we have to fight about it, or no? I'm kidding. Hopefully you'll be able to surprise somebody wonderful in your life.
Yeah, I could take either one of you.
I think he's going to take me, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you want to go?
Yeah, let's go. Let's hang out.
Getting some golf before the baby comes.
No, I take my son.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I hope you have a wonderful time, John. Do us a favor. Send us a text message or reach out to us on Monday and tell us how it was and how you and your son enjoyed it. And thank you so much for playing along and listening, my friend.
John,
I appreciate you.
Sure, appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a great weekend,
Do we have
man.
more tickets to give away? I thought we had some more passes this hour.
See, this is the thing, Deep. This is you and me right now. See, I had told him earlier about we have passes that are coming up next hour. We talked about this. And there are times in which I forget things and I miss things on the show rundown. And he checks me on it and says, hey, you missed this on the show rundown. And this is my opportunity because I missed something earlier today to come back and kind of close the circle and say, now this is one that he missed that we're giving away next hour. So
this could be a new thing.
I thought we had 6 to give away general and then 2.
I have. This is the thing. For me, I've been in radio long enough that when they give me the paper right here,
you're only going to read what's on that.
I give away how many papers I have, and I have 2 papers. One paper says 2 tickets, the other paper says 2 tickets. So that's what I'm going to do.
There we go. Yes. We'll give you away 2 next hour.
Yeah, we'll get 2 next hour.
It's so thoughtful that you would be giving away free stuff while I'm here. It really makes me feel good.
Right on theme. Right on theme.
Maybe that's the new thing. Is whenever I come on, you give away something free.
We're acting like the government, just giving away free stuff. Deep Singh Badhesha is live in studio with us. He's a progressive political strategist. This is why we love this show and so appreciate you, is to get to have some of these more in-depth conversations instead of just having echo chamber rallies here. So I guess what I'm concerned about is, especially for Jews as it relates to Zohran Mamdani's victory in New York City, is he seems to play some word games, and anti-Semitism is at peak level right now in America. I ran the Boulder 5 days before Jews were lit on fire, and it was it was free Palestine everywhere. Which, from my perspective, at this point, with the attacks that took place in Washington D.C. and now the attack in Boulder, that's a call to violence. Because both of them were shouting it as they were either shooting Jews or lighting them on fires. Yeah, please disagree. Go ahead.
I don't think. I mean, you're the small government guy, right? You're the guy who believes in maximum free speech. We shouldn't be in the business of policing what people believe. If people want to be on the streets shouting "Free Palestine," right? In America, people have these rights. If people want to be protesting, if people want to be like, our taxpayer money shouldn't go overseas that go to kill innocent civilians, that is everybody's right. Meanwhile, the government does have a role, though. Instead of policing speech, we should be reaching out and giving resources and protecting vulnerable individuals. Whether that was after 9/11, there was a rise of Islamophobia, and that was protecting mosques, or now where we do see a rise of anti-Semitism and making sure those communities are protected. Again, my background is I'm Sikh, so a lot of family members of mine wear turbans, we have beards, we're a very visible minority. And as a visible minority, we are often targeted, right? And that is something that needs to be addressed. That is something that we can put more investment in, whether it's Denver or New York or Colorado or across the U.S., and that's something that we should be focusing on.
Zohran Mamdani said that if Benjamin Netanyahu came to New York, he'd arrest him. Do you think that's fair?
I believe Zohran was answering that under international law, that we need to keep our promises under international law.
We're not a member of the ICC. And I raised this because I did some work representing persecuted Christians at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. And for 8 hours, I listened to the UN just lambast Israel. Like, it was like what they did. They would just get up. North Korea got up and talked about human rights violations from Israel. And it just went on for 8 hours. So these international entities, from my perspective, seem to be just anti-Semitic. I wouldn't trust them. And I bring it back. Do you think the Jews in New York can trust that they're going to be safe under Zohran Mamdani?
Well, one, I think we can look at the voting. So if you look at the voting, there was a large swaths of the Jewish population that supported him. Brad Lander, who is a progressive individual, also calls himself a Zionist, is part of that community, cross-endorsed Zohran Mamdani, right? Zohran Mamdani said Brad Lander rank him second, and Brad Lander said rank Zohran Mamdani second. And the quick about that is New York City has ranked choice voting. Right.
So confusing.
Which we can talk about that. I was a proponent of Prop 131, but we can talk about that at a different time. But I think you should listen to the voters. And I think those voters is like when I talk to Jewish Americans or Muslim Americans, Sikh Americans, Christians, when I talk to atheists, anybody across the way, people want to feel protected in their homes. People want to feel safe and secure, and they want a good quality of life. They want to live somewhere they can afford, where they can work and have a family. And that's something that Zohran's campaign reached out and touched. And I think people feel more protected when their community is thriving in that way. And focusing on those kitchen table issues is a way to do that. And again, I think this is almost a bipartisan issue now across the board, right? You have people on the right, you have people in the middle, and you have people on the left who are looking at our policy over the last 20, 30, 40 years about what does the U.S. get out of investing billions and billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in the Middle East, whether it was Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria or Libya. We should be getting out of this business, and we should be focusing on Americans.
Or at least in Donald Trump's words, getting oil out of this business.
I mean, yeah, Donald Trump is a good example, right? Donald Trump was super mad at both Iran and Israel for going back on the ceasefire that he alleged to do, right? This is something that the Republican Party has been critical on, right? The Republican Party has been saying, we don't want to be dragged into your wars anymore because they're learning from the Bush era doctrine.
So at 8:48, Bill, just note, Deep said Donald Trump is a good example. We're just going to clip that, and anytime...
I will say, Donald Trump, in some ways, ran on this populist thing, right? He ran on cheaper groceries, cheaper cost of living, and no wars. If you just ran on those three things, you would have been like, this man is a liberal, right? Obviously, he's not going to deliver on any of those, right? He's started a war in the Middle East. Prices of groceries are going up, and prices of gas are going up. But he did run on those things. And again, if you look, the craziest thing that's happened in the last week is I'm listening to Tucker Carlson talk to Ted Cruz. I'm like, I can't believe I agree with Tucker Carlson here.
That's Deep Singh Badhesha. We're having a lot of fun. He's live in studio. I absolutely think he should get back into the comedy space as well. He's very smart, very quick, very witty. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader. We are News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I'm going to throw it to Bill real quick here.
Yes, actually, we were given another piece of paper. I have another piece of paper, so we do have some more general admission tickets that are available. Yes, I didn't get all of them this morning, so now if you want to give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, I will give you a pair of general admission tickets for the USGA Senior Open Colorado Springs. They are gallery seats. We will we did 7 last time. Let's give you a better chance. Let's do caller number 6. Also, with Deep Singh Badhesha, had calls off the air, people asking about the idea that they are going to replace some of the police patrols with people that might be social workers. Your opinion on that? And someone also commenting that small businesses in New York can't make money because of the crime and theft, and that the state-owned run grocery stores or other places aren't going to work.
We've got 1 minute.
Wow, that's quick. One, I will say that when you talk to police officers, and Zohran said this in New York City, and I will say this in Denver, when you talk to police officers, and I'm like, hey, why'd you become a police officer? What do you want to do? Oftentimes they talk about saving lives, solving crimes, and doing things. They don't sign up for patrolling, like going to mental health crises or pulling over people and giving them speeding tickets. That's not what those individuals want to do either. And when we look at the unsolved crime rates, I'm sure it's the same in New York City as is in Denver, it's quite high. And police officers should be in the business of solving crimes, right? Investigating. And there should be a different force that's focused on community safety. And Zohran in New York City has offered that in place of police officers, what they're doing right now is patrolling subways. That could be community resource officers that are more community focused, that are more about what is happening with this individual. Something that's very similar to the Denver Star program, for example, that's seen massive success. And then what was the other question? I forgot what Bill said.
Grocery stores dealing with theft and crime. That's the reason why they have to either lock up everything or close down themselves.
I think this is another thing is like in the richest areas in America, in the areas that have plenty, you don't see these things happening, is when people can't get basic necessities that they have to resort to this type of theft. And if you are raising the tide, if people are being paid better wages, if their rents aren't going up $200 every single month, if folks can actually afford to live, you're going to see a decrease in crime. And that is something that you see all across the board. Well,
Deep Singh Badhesha, we don't agree on policy, but I sure do appreciate you taking time to come in and have a good conversation. These are the conversations that need to take place in Colorado. They don't happen too often. You took the time to come over and talk with us. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. If folks or listeners want to follow me, you can go on X, artist known formerly as Twitter. Go to follow me at Deep Not Shallow if you want to have someone challenge your beliefs. Thanks for having me on. Always happy to cross the aisle.
X.com/Deep Not Shallow. He's a great follow on X. We'll continue. We got a hot hour next hour as well. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is 710 KNUS.